It's not very often that I get an opportunity to speak to such an august convocation, such a gathering of beautiful Cheder kids, and probably the finest school in the world, Cheder Menachem. So give yourselves a rousing round of applause. Dear kids, you know the difference between ignorance and apathy, right? Because you learn English here. Ignorance and apathy. So a person was once asked, so they answered, I don't know and I don't care. The point of today, as Rabbi Greenbaum very succinctly stated, is that although today is considered a Yom Tif, it's a minor festival. What is the actuality of the Yom Tif? We don't say Tachanun. Actually, yesterday by Mincha we did. So it has lesser intensity than, let's say, an Erev Lag BaOmer. Today we don't say Tachanun and we eat a little Shmura Matzah. But the lesson and the imperative and the philosophical importance of Pesach Sheni is Ein L'Shayr. You can't measure or describe it, and it's really the very essence of what the Rebbe is all about. Nishtokin farfallen, it's never ever too late. Now that doesn't mean, many of you are going to recess soon, that the reality is God gives us another chance. People who were Tamei or B'derech Recheika Lachem, who were far away, could not bring the Korban Pesach, Bismanoi, on Erev Pesach, on the 14th of Nisan, are given a rain date, a make-up date. But the reality of the make-up date is you have to make it up. You can't just say I'm infused with a second chance and that's good and it feels good. There has to be the Poel Mamish. That's the acrostic of the Rebbe's name, Mamosh. There has to be the actuality where we bring things from the theoretical into practice itself. I'm going to tell you a silly story. I once visited Alaska. My daughter, who's already a married lady with a lot of kids, was doing shlichus in Alaska. Anybody here ever in Alaska? Don't be shy, raise your hands. Yeah? I was there, no? Okay. I was there in February. There's a shliach there, the Greenbergs. And I went to visit my daughter, and I went to be the guest speaker for the weekend. And I'm walking to shul in the morning from my hotel to the Chabad house, and it is cold. It's colder than today is hot. And all of a sudden, next to me comes this behemoth, bigger than a horse, and it's unbelievable. My daughter said, just keep on walking, Tati. Everything will be just chill. And I was chilled over there. It's what we call a moose. Anybody here ever see a moose? They're like bigger, yeah, they're bigger than horses with these big antlers, and they can do a lot of damage. And they run free like the cows of India. No, but then if you mind your own business, you're going to live to speak about it the next day. And they come up real close to you. And it really puts you on the precipice of fear. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, I'm here today. So I want to tell you a story about two hunters. We don't hunt as Jews. The most we do is fish. Anyway, these two hunters spent a lot of money, and they rented this special plane, you know, the plane that go in the air and also lands on the water, to get them to this island in the springtime when things begin to thaw a little bit off the Alaskan coast. And they took them to this island, they dropped them off, the pilots, I'll be back in 2 days, they're going moose hunting. And he says, you're on your own, there's no phones, there's no cell, there's no transmission, there's no fire, you're mamish living on your own, and I'll be back in 2 days. 2 days come, and they had such hatzlacha, they were able to hunt down and kill 5 moose. And they have the meat over there, the mooses, they want to bring them home to their wives and kids. They were goyim, obviously, they ate moose. And the pilot said, there's no way, I'm not going to be able to put 5 mooses on the plane. Are you Meshuggah? They said, what are you talking about? He said, it's not safe. It's a little plane. It's like a Volkswagen plane. And maybe I can bring 2 mooses on. He said, no, no, no. Last year, we also had Aslacha. We killed 5 moose. And the pilot said the same thing, but we argued with him. And Baruch Hashem, we got all 5 moose on the plane. And we're going to do it this year, too. We spent so much money. We came here. We want to bring all the mooses back home. The pilot said, I'm telling you, it's a bad idea. He says, they said, no way, Jose, we're going to put the moose on the plane. So they shoved them here and there, and they're sitting with the mooses in their faces. And come, they got all the mooses on. and the pilot says, put on your seatbelts, and he goes up in the air, he takes off, and maybe 2 minutes later, the plane starts to shake and to knock, it crashes, and there's moose and people all over the place, and an hour or two later, the two hunters wake up, they're half dead, and one says to the other, what happened? He says, we crashed. And he said, yeah, but where are we? He says, I think we're pretty close to the place where we crashed last year. What's the point of the silly story? Sometimes we have to learn that although Pesach Sheni is here, it's not just here, let's eat some matzah, but there has to be the lesson, the imperative, as Heint is anders, today is different, we have to go forward. Now I want to share with you a concept that the Rebbe explains, and then I'm going to tell you a very quick story, maybe two if we have time. The Rebbe discusses the Mishnah in Pesach. Now what does it mean a person was b'derech rechaika? If you're in Los Angeles and you got to bring the carbon paste from Yerushalayim, that's pretty rachik, that's pretty far. So the Mishnah offers, you can be very close, but you don't have time to go into the Azara by the same Zman HaShchita, by the end of the time that you can bring the carbon Pesach. So that's considered b'derech rechaika, and that's why today we can make it up. The Rebbe brings down Rashi's interpretation is different. Rashi says you can be right there. You could be by the doorway of the Azara, and you choose not to go in for whatever extenuating circumstance. You're lazy, you have a stomach ache, you're not in the mood. Rahman al-Itzlan, it doesn't seem to be that important to you that day. Doesn't make a difference. So Rashi explains that what does it mean b'derech rechaika? That as long as you were outside the Azara, it's not held against you, and you'll have a makeup date. And the Rebbe asked the question, what's going on here? The whole idea of a makeup date is because you messed up, you're far away. Here you weren't far away, you're just lazy. You had to go and put your finger in cold water and walk through the door of the Azara. You could have go ahead and brought a carbon Pesach. Why are we playing games here? Why is that considered b'derech rechaika that you should get a chance a month later? So, if you listen well, the Rebbe explains that there's a difference here. The deficiency, what you're wrong about is not that you didn't bring the carbon Pesach. You couldn't bring the carbon Pesach because you're not in the right place. What's wrong with your actions is you didn't walk into the Azara. But it won't be held against you. You can go ahead and bring the Pesach Sheni. When are you chayav chorus? That's only when you were mamish in the Azara and you said, I'm not going to bring it. But the Rambam goes ahead and says even more, the Rebbe explains. That even if you were there and you're chayav chorus, if you bring a Pesach Sheni, you become exempted from any punishment. Why am I getting into this lumdus with you? So I want you guys to understand how far, how extreme, I'll use the word, how radical the sensitivity that the Eibishter has for the Jewish people, that you could be standing right there and you don't do it, God gives you another chance for tshuva. God gives you a chance to make it up. So therefore we have to understand that the whole concept of Pesach Sheni only came from Avodas HaNevroim. The Yidden came over to Moshe Rabbeinu. We're going to read about it in Alaskan about 3 weeks after this Sedra, after B'chukaisai, after the culmination of Leviticus. And they come and they say, Lama Nigara, why should we be denied the mitzvah Korban Pesach? And Moshe Rabbeinu seeks God's counsel. And because of the Hisayrus, the awakening from people such as you, Kindalach, of Cheder Menachem, God added another mitzvah called Pesach Sheni. That is very, very important. Because there are other segments of Judaism that says, you know what? When Mashiach will come, he'll come. It's really not our business. We got to try our best. And the Rebbe took a very different attitude. The Rebbe's attitude was and is that we are masters of our destiny. You guys understand what that means? You think you got to go to school every day, and if you don't behave, and if you talk when Rabbi Mordechai's talking, you're going to get in trouble, and you're not going to have recess. And it may be true. But when push comes to shove, young men, you are the masters of your destiny, and you make out of your lives whatever you want to. The idea of Pesach Sheni with Asach Nemen in the hand We have to understand that it's never too late, but today, hayom la'asosei, or as the Rebbe would articulate, keravel times. Don't wait for tomorrow. Turn the world over today. I want to have about 15 minutes. I have another 6-7 minutes. I want to describe this with a story. Because really Pesach Sheni, and it's really what Cheder Menachem is all about, which bears the enduring legacy in the holy name of the Rebbe, the Cheder. It's all about the sensitivity of another Jew and looking to make another Jew's life good, to see the cup being half full, not half empty. Did anybody here ever hear of one of the big first Baalei Tshuva of Lubavitch in America? He was a professor. He lived his last years in Beersheba. The very great scientist. His name was Dr. Velvel Green. Anybody hear that name? Samayador. Dr. Velvel Green was a very special man who was Zeichel L'Kiruvim Gedolim. He merited much attention and sensitivity from the Rebbe. And when before he was involved in Torah and mitzvahs, to the point where he became a Baal Tshuva, where he became a Siddish Yid with a beard and a gartel, and I think he has children who are shluchim. Dr. Velvel Green was visited by the great Shliach to Minnesota, Rabbi Moshe Feller. May he be well and successful. And he held the key to open up the doors and the opportunities to the greater Jewish community in Minnesota. Rabbi Feller tried month after month, year after year to get into him, and Dr. Green was a very arrogant man. He admits it himself. He was very full of himself, didn't really care about religiosity or Yiddishkeit, even though he had a knowledge. And as much as he tried to get into him for an appointment, the answer was no, no, no. Until one time he finally gave him 5 minutes. There's a story that goes along with that, but I won't belabor it to belittle. And the bottom line is, he got him interested in the work of Chabad Lubavitch. And although he criticized, and although he was arrogant, and although he was defiant, and although he was a contrarian, you know what a contrarian is? I say day, you say night. Everything Rabbi Feller said, he wasn't an easy customer. We have a lot of people like that in the valley as well. God bless them. And every Makom HaShlichus has its opportune people. And the reality is that slowly but surely the coldness began to dissipate somewhat, and Dr. Green became the scholar slowly to the Rebbe's and Yonim. Rabbi Feller worked very hard in the inyan of Afotzas HaMayonas Chutza, so that there remains no vestige, alien or impervious to the influence of the Rebbe of Torah Chassidus. One day, Dr. Green calls up Rabbi Feller in the beginning, when he was still very defiant, and he said, "Why is the Rebbe writing articles about evolution?" Evolution, you know, is a theory, scientific theory. It's Hepach HaTorah. And it's the way many people try to explain that we come from monkeys and from apes. It was actually a kid who came home from school one day, not from the Cheder Menachem, from one of the competitors. And he came home to his mother very tzubrochen. He had a science teacher who was a shtickle atheist. And he said, no, that's where the world came from. We all came from monkeys and from apes. Everybody's looking around the room. And he says, Mommy, what does this mean? Torah says the opposite. There was Adam and Chava. And the mother says, don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean don't worry about it? This is what the teacher said. And he's smarter than I am. He said it with a surety. He said it to Azay der Inyan. Azay der Inyan. This is the way it is. So, Mommy, what do I do? He says, we come from monkeys and apes. I'm telling you, don't worry about it, sweetheart. We do not. He's talking about your father's side of the family. So, when we talk about evolution, actually it's very interesting because the Rebbe has many published papers on evolution. I was a kid who grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. And I went to a school where there was Hebrew and English, with Yeshiva Zachetz B'Mim Lubavitch, and the English was a very strong English department, and myself and my dear friend Rabbi Shimon Hecht, who was the Shliach in the Haven Ad Hayom Hazeh, we went and we said, no way, Jose, we're not going to learn this stuff, it's garbage, we don't accept it. And we did it with such a pristine purity that we were exempted from it. They let us go out to learn Gemara at that time. And then one of the kids who also agreed with us, but they didn't have the guts to speak out against it, got a very lousy mark. And that boy said to the principal, I also want to be exempt. He says, no, no, no. You don't want to be exempted to the point that you would miss the course. They meant with an emes, you didn't. Anyway, getting back to the subject. So, there was actually a very great Lubavitch Chassid. He was a teacher on Ocean Parkway. His name was Rabbi Kolodny. And he was a professor in the theory of evolution at Brooklyn College. And when he became frum, he asked the Rebbe, what do I do? The Rebbe said, continue teaching it and make sure every class you promulgate, declare unabashedly that this is the study of a theory. As you know, a theory is not fact. It's a Baba Maisa, but it's a very interesting Baba Maisa. Anyway, Nachzer L'Inyanenu. Rabbi Feller is approached by Dr. Green. He says, a chutzpah. The Rebbe is a great rabbi, but what's he writing things he doesn't know much about? He's a rabbi, not a scientist. Dr. Velvel Green was an accomplished scientist. He was a microbiologist at the University of Minnesota. He worked on the NASA team that sent people to the moon. He was a very big intellectual. He was a great scientist. He worked for the World Health Organization, and he says, how can the Rebbe publish papers speaking about evolution? And he says, I don't agree with the Rebbe. I don't agree with what the Rebbe said. It's out of his league. So Rabbi Feller says, what do you want from my life? Why don't you write to the Rebbe and tell him how you feel? He says, I will. 770 Eastern Parkway, Brooklyn, New York, 11213. Sends a whole letter, tinged with a little bit of chutzpah as he was, and he registered his complaints, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled. The Rebbe should stick to Torah and Siddur. What are you talking about evolution? And you happen to be wrong. The great chutzpah. Anyway, the Rebbe sent him back a letter. I'm happy to hear that you and your wife are advancing in all facets of Judaism, and I hear that you're connected with the work of Chabad Lubavitch, and keep on sending me positive reports to gladden my heart. And he gave him a bracha. The Rebbe didn't mention whatsoever the main body of the letter, which is his arguments about evolution. I'll call upon him. Velvel Green gets even more infuriated. Goes to Rabbi Feller. Says, what do you want from me? Write to the Rebbe a letter. He writes another letter. Rebbe, why are you ignoring me? You probably understand that I'm right and you don't want to admit it. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled. The Rebbe sent him another letter a few months later. I hear even better reports that you're advancing and you're growing in Torah and in Siddur, and you're starting to keep Shabbos and kosher. God bless you. Keep up the good work. And from strength to greater strength. The Rebbe totally ignores the issue of evolution. 3 years later, there is the metamorphosis. There is a change. Dr. Green, his wife, his children become Frume Yidden, become fledgling Lubavitch Chassidim, or Medavin, to Mehit Shabbos, and they keep kosher, and it's unbelievable. And he finally gets a chance to go to Yechidus by the Rebbe. So maybe 3 or 4 years after the original letter. The Rebbe blesses them, and the Rebbe speaks to them in Yonim of science. There's many stories that go with this, but I want to cut to the chase. And they finish with the Yechidus, mamish, a 25-minute Yechidus. It's a very long Yechidus. Yechidus is a private audience, boys. And they're ready to leave, and the Rebbe looks up with a smile and says to Dr. Green, do you not have anything else to discuss with me? And Dr. Green, who had lost his chutzpah, he became a shtickle chassid at that time, he was overwhelmed. And his wife understood that she should leave the room. The Rebbe said again, don't you have something else to discuss with me? So he says, oh, you mean the stuff that I wrote to the Rebbe about evolution years ago? I was a different person then, I apologize. The Rebbe said, no, don't apologize. And the Rebbe went through Baal Peh, point by point, question by question of Dr. Green, who later admitted after Yechidus that he doesn't hold a candle to the Rebbe's intellectual prowess, to the Rebbe's understanding, even in these scientific inyanim, which he seemingly was a prodigy at. And he went and he explained to Dr. Green everything, how right he was and how wrong Dr. Green was. And Dr. Green was makabel because it wasn't just because he was a chassid, it was because the brilliance of the Rebbe came forth. And then the Rebbe smiled to him as he was stepping out, and he stopped him again. The Rebbe said to him, this is the point of the story, boys. And this is the message you should bring home to your parents on Pesach Sheni. The Rebbe said to him, you may be wondering why I waited almost 4 years to answer your question. The Rebbe said like this, he pointed to himself. He says, the purpose of the descent of my neshama into this world is not to win arguments with Jews. It's to bring them closer to Yiddishkeit. The Rebbe elaborated, had I explained this to you then, it would have put up a barrier between us. But now that you are one of us and you have come closer to the truth, now more than ever is the time to share this with you. And now you can be makabelit to emes of Pnimius. I think I'm going to forego the other story. Yeah? I'm going to conclude now. And I just want to say one more thing. I want to dedicate this. Today is the birthday of my Shverel of Shalom, Rabbi Mordechai Einbinder, Ben Reb Elazar Kohen, Rabbi Mordechai Brisky of blessed memory, who was my father-in-law, who today is his birthday. Today would have been his 92nd birthday, and I want to finish with a 30-second adage that he shared with me that he had by the Rebbe in Yechidus. He was a Jew, and I'm finishing off. He was a Jew who was from the Etovatske Talmidim, who ran away from the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, and they went to Shanghai, to Japan. They went through living hell on this earth. And Baruch Hashem, he was saved while his whole family was killed by the Nazis in the Holocaust. And he experienced many, many difficulties in life. And at one point in his life, when things were very, very difficult, he had Yechidus by the Rebbe. The Rebbe blessed him. The Rebbe mentioned the Pirkei Avos that we're learning now. And I want to leave you guys with this message. Pirkei Avos says, the Rebbe said, steht in Pirkei Avos, Lefum Tzayir Agra, that commensurate with the tsar, with the aggravation in life, Agra, God rewards us. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe said, and I say it's not commensurate, it's exceedingly greater. So the Rebbe should help. And we see these great kids of Cheder Menachem, that Mashiach should come today, and reward us properly, take us out of this golus. Amen, and a good yom to thanks for listening.